Mike's like, we can go buy dirt.
Yeah. We can oh, hey, Victoria.
Oh, hey, Chelsea.
You know what I could use?
Oh, tell me, what could you use?
Breath of fresh movie.
That's a movie I like.
This is a Breath of Fresh Movie, a weekly podcast where me, Victoria Harley,
And me, Chelsea Pope.
we watch a movie neither one of us has ever seen before, and then we talk about it.
And we may not talk about everything, but we're going to talk about anything at any point.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll totally just come at you with like a random spoiler from a totally different thing.
Yeah, we've ruined a couple TV shows.
Has anyone ever gotten mad about it?
No, I've never heard anything.
Oh, thank God.
Spoilers ahoy.
Keeps me awake at night.
Ding, ding.
Ding, ding.
Yeah,
Spoilers ahoy.
Okay. This week's film is the 1977 Robert Altman thriller. I feel like it, maybe not thriller. It's like a psychological dreamlike drama.
I would say, dreamlike. It was a con film.
Yeah.
And it still feels that like this is very...
The movie is three women.
It's three women. Yeah, the title is Three Women, and it's three women.
And it's three women.
And it's three women. Some other people.
It's starring
some other jabronis.
Shelley Duvall, Sissy Spacek, and Janice Rule, who I feel like people don't mention Janice Rule, but I loved her witchy ass. Like, oh my God, that desert look. I'm gonna just start dressing that like that.
No, she was great. I'm just gonna scowl like her.
Oh, loved her.
No,
scowl.
that's great. Not talk. Oh, I love that scowl.
Not talking to people.
No, she was kind of scary.
Oh, loved her.
She was scary.
She was the best. This story is. So it's not really even to attempt to describe it is sort of pointless or not pointless, like, but Altman's not really interested in plot or story.
It's yes.
He prefers to like live, basically just observe human behavior.
The way I see it, and I know you did all this production notes, but it was, for me, I was like, I watched this and I was like, okay, well, now I have to Google like what. Now I need someone to tell me what this
movie is about.
But it's all, a lot of it is everybody in attempts to explain it that I've come across. It has to go back to the context of he had a dream and the studio's like, well, you need to at least write like 50 pages. Like, I just kind of had he pulled a Cher where people are like, Cher, where do you come up with these outfits? This dream? Oh, I have these dreams. I dreamt it. And that's what Robert Altman did.
Yes.
And that's why it's like, I don't know.
No, it's wild.
I think there's more that people could. I don't know. I didn't feel like that helped me out very much.
1977 was a wild year. I think that's.
A lot of people for this kind of movie. I don't know. I don't know who's getting away with that now because
no one. And really, this is kind of like this is a movie about two roommates who are also physical therapists. One a vain woman, the other an impressionable teenager, as they share an increasingly bizarre relationship. That's the closest thing you can describe to a story. But this, as you said, is totally in the realm of dreams. Robert Altman literally had a dream, as you said, and he literally dreamt about Sissy Spacek specifically and Shelley Duvall specifically.
And then he was like, no, there's got to be a third one.
Yeah.
They're like, why don't you just no, it's got to be three. It's got to be three. It's like, it's funny. It's not to step on your toes. I just think that's all. You can't really describe the movie without saying, well, technically.
Yeah. I don't want to say that this is the high watermark of that like 70s, when we talk about what great 70s movies that are so personal and character driven and auteur, interested. At least
it's very much amongst the peak of that.
It is.
It kind of is a high.
Yeah. And then
you can say.
This is also the year though the Star Wars comes out.
Right.
And it comes out after this movie by a few months. And my own point of view, you can disagree. It's just that like there's this big shift that happens in cinema after Star Wars.
I would say that's not just your opinion.
Jaws.
That's just objective.
It's objective. I mean, it is. You're right.
I get it. I'm
not trying.
You're being delicate because I'm a fan of the OG fare. But again, we've talked about this and my love for it is unabashedly purely nostalgic.
Sure.
And it also has this. It's that cultural value and the associations with it.
Yeah. And listen, I love Jaws, but between Spielberg and Lucas.
It's big escapist fare.
Yeah, we move away from these character-driven, intensely interesting portraits.
Yeah.
And we move toward spectacle and,
escapism. And I think that, in a perfect world, we get both.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's just, there's still the push and pull.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to say her. I love spectacle. It's just, but I need it to have a reason.
Oh, sure.
Otherwise, I mean, it's funny how people talk about, escape. I mean, I go to see, if I get somehow stuck going to like a Marvel movie or something, and that is how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I'm actually distracted because I'm just like, oh God, all that work for just like 30 seconds. They just shut down that whole street. Like I actually get distracted by those things.
Yeah.
So I escape into art movies way more because they actually pull me in. I care. And it's not just art movies. It's also older movies. It's anything that is making an effort to care about the human condition. There's a lot of movies that do that. And that can happen in commercial and mainstream. It does happen. Yeah. It happens all the time. But there's this huge notion of like what's sellable, right?
I get fully your thesis there. And I think purely to be a dick.
Please.
My counter argument is someone wanting to expand their palette, and maybe get into more sort of ephemeral, symbolic, blah blah blah. Do not three women. I feel
not
like is part of the I don't know if apotheosis is the right word for it, but it is that point where somebody who is maybe already a bit like either fatigued or alienated, or they're gonna
throw up their hands.
This is a movie that a lot of people like. It is very much a critical darling fare. I really enjoyed this, so I don't want to sound like I'm I'm anti high fare, but it is absolutely something that is it's just a dream. It's just a dream, and it's like why people can scratch their heads and go, oh well, this is not inclusive. Yeah. This is exclusionary. It's and that's something that is. I get the popular. It's a two-sided thing. I want both. I have to have both.
I'm really pleased that you brought that up because watching this. I love that sort of thing, but to me, this was a bit too indulgent for me, too self-indulgent.
I think enough smaller pieces of this led me to say for me to say I like it. But as far as its greater trajectory in terms of me being able to say, oh, this is saying something profound, it kind of isn't. It's just Robert Altman had a funky dream, and some really, really talented people helped him put it together.
It provokes plenty of thoughts, but it left me kind of cold.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think you're totally right with that. Yeah. And that's why, even trying to describe what it's about, people who, after I watched this, I'm looking at, a lot of people have this on their Criterion 10 selection, in the website. Yeah. But when I look at why, it's largely due to style and the quality of the film, as opposed to what it's trying to say.
Yeah.
If it's really trying to say, it's not treading any new ground necessarily. You got the three-way split of woman, it's symbolically, and then
here's a mural of it.
And a lot of shots of that mural. That's my number one gripe, is that it is 2 hours, and thankfully it wasn't as slow as I feared it would be. But that is because Shelley Duvall is she God. Is the only person that is
She's
really moving
the entire
this.
Engine of the whole movie.
Entirely. I can't even really give Sissy Spacek too much credit for that. As much as I really enjoy her,
I love her, but
she's fantastic in terms of range, and she does so much. But it's Shelley
Duvall also, and I'm getting a little bit ahead, but she essentially wrote all that stuff she's saying, those long rambles, the diary entries,
this is a great example of a movie that's people should put more respect to her name.
Absolutely.
Not that necessarily people don't. I think she's got a mostly positive public opinion. I think when people are overly defending, overly dick riding Stanley Kubrick and The Shining and that experience for her, that's when disparage against her comes out.
I think there's plenty of stories, about how she wasn't treated with a terrible amount of respect for her abilities because she was kind of, and I mean, she did, I mean, it's like Altman saw her and I mean, she was discovered like at a makeup counter, you know what I mean? Like
she's got a look, though.
She's got a look. That's what
even
it was.
day-to-day people, it's like, we don't have enough like character actor. There's a lot of beautiful people who've got to do the prosthetic, they got to do all this stuff so they can just look like a different person. Odd. So they can look like a different person, but then she's got that look.
No, she's got this look, and they pretty much invited her to come be in this movie because of that. But she has, so I don't, I mean, James Dean had training as well, but he was such a raw talent. Like the people talk about how, he did have training, in acting, but some of it was just this instinctual
It's just an
stuff.
Emotional energy he gave off.
Yeah. And Shelley Duvall, this is the 6th film she made with Robert Altman. And so she's in like 6 of his films in a row. This is her 6th film period and her 6th film with Altman. So, I mean, the two of them have such a great working relationship.
He really
respected her.
Does so much good for her. And that honestly, if I had to break down percentage-wise what makes me go, I overall recommend this. It's like 92%. Those two working together.
Absolutely.
And the fact that he was able, I give him so much credit that he does so well with his subjects, with it, that he treats them as collaborators
actors
in this
love
work.
him.
That's fantastic. So I can't fault him too much. Like, the lazy discourses. Some man had a dream about women and decided to try and tell a story about womanhood and femininity, and it's like, well, what it really is a guy who just knows how to take care of his actors and get the best out of them.
And Shelley Duvall's character sort of represents this like this mirror of like all the through the magazines and the contests and all the like what is a woman supposed to be, and I think that's a really that's something she can speak with great authority to.
Absolutely, and especially in this character, it's the detail. That's what really brings you into a character. That's what really brings you into that's what a lot if you're not doing that, it's just a funny voice or movement or this or that. Not that she's playing a hybrid, but this applies to doing comedic or sketch characters as well. When you don't have that rich detail just in what's said by not being said. And she has this in running like she's just babbling at people all the time, but it's so rich, and it's through that behavior and how everyone's reacting to it, or they don't. I love the coworkers that just walk ahead of her while she's going on and on. I was thinking about going into that contest. They got that sale, they got this and that, and then other people,
and then just don't even turn around. They just walk like as if she was a ghost. And then the doctor she goes and has lunch with, and we're talking first impressions at this point. The doctor she goes and has lunch with, and I sort of was like expecting them to be a little bit cruel.
I was so relieved actually, because I think there's tension, which is also really fun, really fascinating to watch. And how people you're waiting for what people are going to say or do.
Because of how much she wears her heart on her sleeve. And I think it's the people at the apartment are the only ones who seem to openly sort of whisper to each other about her or treat her with open-handed sort of derision. But I just find that scene with the doctors was just funny at one point, because there's just like that great Altman scene where everybody's mic'd and we can choose what he wants to hear, and like, the peach pie was stale. You think I should send it back? I mean, it's just great. Like it's like it feels like life. Now, as much as actors love him, writers really hate him because like he abandoned scripts in favor of I want to see
this hardly had one though.
That's the thing. It's his idea, it's his concept, so he's not running into that trouble. However, that is a criticism that's been alleged.
It's as far as like trying to attempt to summarize the movie, and that first they're working at this pool at a senior center.
It's like a geriatric spa.
But it's again the whole it's just a dream. It's like don't put too much weight into that, other than how they meet and the symbolism of handling it's all just symbol. I felt like
Yeah.
I was reading a college literature like a college class assigned book in a literature class. That's what this
the pools and the reflections.
and then she's handling the old people in the pool, and
the
then
water.
what does that mean?
And the tubs.
And then she gets submerged in the Sissy, she gets submerged, and her one of the first things we see her wear is this oversized, like she can't fit into the womanly bathing suit, and then now we're at the apartment. This is how they're dressed. This is the colors, and
I think like you could say this is like, at first I thought it was going to be a portrait of a shitty job, because they have the doctor who couldn't have cared less about anyone.
Yeah.
Like, aren't you both from Texas or something? Like,
Yeah.
he's so not interested. He doesn't make any eye contact. And then there's their supervisor, Miss Bunwell, who's like this horrible, just a bitch, I mean, one of those people you don't want to work for.
She's just pretty anal in general.
There's a pair of adult twins who dress alike. Now, in hindsight, it's
that's
like,
interesting.
that's a dream thing for sure.
That's an interesting detail that didn't seem as though it amounted
It made
too
me a
much
little
significance.
It made me a little uneasy though when I realized like, oh, they're dressing alike. How old are they? And like, what is this?
I think that you could start a letterbox list with at least two movies that have Shelley Duvall and a set of twins.
That's right. Holy shit.
If I had a nickel,
We need to make another.
I'd have 2 nickels.
2 nickels.
Anyway,
flute music also makes me edgy. I just gotta say it. Like,
yeah, that made it. So that music, starting with when Sissy Spacek's character is Pinky is looking into the pool room and watching Shelley, and that spiking kind of flute music is playing. I'm thinking, oh, is this going to be like a single white female?
That's what I was thinking.
I'm thinking it's going to be much more suspenseful, and so I was anticipating.
well, Sissy's looking at her with such
There's a lot of
obsessive interest.
I guess tension building that doesn't amount to what you think it was. You can't get disappointed. It was just a dream, okay?
That's right.
You can't get disappointed if there's no follow through.
I'm glad that the dream included Dodge City.
Yeah.
Because I thought there was something.
What a vibe.
Exactly. Oh man.
This movie is just Robert's like, I just wanted to do vibes.
Yeah, he went out to Palm Springs and Desert Hot Springs is where all this was filmed. Now that purple in the Purple Sage Apartments is like aggressively purple. Like everything is very washed out.
I love those bright colors. It kind of reminded me of the Florida Project.
Oh yeah.
And I wonder if there's any. I wonder if there was any inspiration drawn from this.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought also that just the everything being false, like the miniature golf course.
Yeah.
It's like, well, of course, just dried up and closed, but the rock, the styrofoam rock or whatever with a fake snake under it. That everything is kind of this weird. I mean, we're in Southern California as well, where you drive enough out of the city, you'll find Paramount Ranch and these places where these little saloon towns are set up, or even just Sunset, like the Gulch.
Yeah.
Like I personally have a real fondness for that sort of thing, like old Vegas, and
it has this sort of vibe of this not dystopian per se, but a little bit of Lost Land, where the women. Or it's just 3 women split, or it's 1 woman split in 3. It's not really ever. You could argue that none of this ever really happened, or that it all was in the mind of one character.
Okay, there are some men in this movie, and
Sure.
I'm just like, I read one because I had to go and do a reading after it too. I read one summary that suggested that Edgar was murdered by the 3 of these women in the reality of the not dream.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that was a given. Or that not a given, but that it's implied to the point where that's may as well be perceived as fact. It's said without being said.
Yeah, but I guess I just...
Is he in the tire pile? Is that why we were looking at the tire pile at the very end?
Oh, I don't know.
Was his corpse there?
I don't know.
They're not very good at not very good at solving murders out there.
No, not very good at all. I did think a lot of the camera movements were really great, in that they were slow, intentional zooms that kind of reminded me actually of like the way Kubrick works in Barry Lyndon, where you start very close on someone and
then
you
pull
think
out.
you're in this sort of intimate, and you're just backing slowly up, and it's like, and the composition shifts and grows, and it's just, I don't know, I love it. It's so, there was so many intentional.
It looks great. This film looks great. It's just if you're wondering why at certain points certain things are happening, and I think it is almost a little too. There's too many pool shots for me at certain points. I think there's too much ambiance for me.
A little too much of the flute and clarinet comes in later too,
and that's again it got a little distracting, the music for me, because tonally it was, there's tension to what end? I don't know. I think there is a little bit of like a tone dissonance for me that I
completely agree.
That I would say.
And again, because I was tense, sort of on edge, I think it kind of, I'm sorry to say, created like a disappointment for me in that it didn't really go anywhere.
And then I'm like, oh, is this supposed to be something where I'm like, I have to now ask myself why I was anticipating or am disappointed that a woman didn't commit violence against another woman, or that a thing didn't happen. Yeah. Like, oh, is that on me that I didn't expect these women to go, oh, you know, like they rallied, it's implied, oh, they rally together, or they become their own family unit. It's the men/man who was creating all of this adversarial behavior between one another. There's all this sort of perceived power shifting, push-pull all throughout. Like there's a lot of negative energy between these women, and then the guy's gone, and now they live in a house
happily together.
Now they're a nice little family unit.
I think it was just like it and I know it had elements of what we see in Mulholland Drive a little bit. Yeah. With that, I thought maybe...
Oh, it's very like, Mulholland Drive.
Like, now she's become the dark... Like, Shelley Duvall's now doing the witchy look with the dark makeup. And I was like, oh, wait, so she took the place of Willie? And then, you know, and
it's like how... I like looking at this movie as a means of theorizing in an artsy way how women transition from one phase of life to one phase of their womanhood, or growing into a womanhood, or their identity to another. And you know, the space again, this is partly because I had to go in an analytical spiral of like, am I missing something, or is this literally just symbol girls become women, become mothers thing? And it kind of is just that, if I'm being totally... That's what my takeaway ultimately...
Listen, like, it gets points for all the things, but, you know, I can recall people critiquing Anna Lily Amirpour for, oh, you're so obsessed with style, you know, because...
Style's great. Right. That's fine.
But A Girl Walks Home at Night had a very distinct narrative compared to something like
this. Oh, yeah,
I
would not. You know I would not say that Lily is in any way doing what's happening here. Yeah, she definitely has a story.
Yes,
to tell,
and that's kind of why I kind of turn my nose up at that, because I'm like, well, if you're gonna rail against style, then you got a long list of people to call. Like,
oh no, that's you know, I don't know.
Just wanted to bring that up because I didn't necessarily.
No, you should bring that up, because that is important to note, and I have to wonder where gender not only comes into play in terms of the criticism that may or may not be lodged against her versus others, or like with. Or how much of it compared to other, male peers or predecessors who are far more guilty of that. And, but also what can actually even be said in terms of because of gender. Because that's the other thing too. It's easy for me to. There's a part of me that feels a little torn. Not that. I think we should be fully allowed and it's fully permissible to tell stories of other perspectives that aren't your own. But what is Robert like getting? What is Robert getting at?
He was, I will say, the idea was a dream, but his wife was receiving treatment in the hospital. So I think it was a stress drain.
I think I see, and that's compelling, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because that actually, that helps inform the idea of what
was on his mind,
how he's taking in or perceiving, women's pain, and I think that says a lot. I think that adds some depth and context that isn't not already apparent in the film. This isn't a superficial male gazy
no, I don't
pseudo intellectual meditation on womanhood.
No,
I think this is someone
this is very much from,
processing.
This is very much from like a woman's perspective. Like, I mean, it's not literally, but I'm thinking about the scene where Edgar is trying to like involve Pinky in the sex or whatever, or just, and I just like, there was something very like the fact that he comes into their apartment. I think like we're nervous for them, like that's not a cool okay moment, that's like a tense awful thing, it just like I felt the paranoias being articulated, I guess. Yeah. And that, that kind of feminine paranoia, I guess. And that's not to like gender it, because it's not. I think it's just human, right? Just fear. Right. Our safety, But he more than once.
That's a unique thing to capture.
Yeah. Yeah. He cares about, again, behavior and watching it unfold. There were some things that just like the sound of that rollaway bed, like just the thought that like once you hear that thing rolling out, somebody's gotta have sex, I guess.
Yeah.
Also,
it's got a sleazy quality.
It had a real sleazy quality to. Yeah. And the way like get up, like I've got company. It's like, damn, this is like all this roommate shit. Like
what I found interesting, I think, is all this work and everything the women are doing, and everything that Shelley is, her character and how she takes care of herself and her space, and there's so much intentionality about how she lives her life,
and she explains
and all of that, and like it's so it's so fascinating to Sissy, and then all of this happens, and then and then just some jabroni comes along, and he's making the space gross. And then what? He knocks you up, and then now I'd be grumpy and I'd be grumpy, and I'd stop brushing my hair too, and I'm just, I'm just walking.
Painting
just start painting the pool, the home that the gilded home that you took such pleasure in is now more or less your confinement due to your condition.
Yeah,
I think he's definitely saying something very strong about women's relationships to one another and themselves and their identity and their bodies, both with and without the influence of male attention or male influence.
Oh yeah, because like Pinky has a kind of Phineas Gage transition after her coma. She goes from being this,
and it's after she's seen the hookup, and she's the loss of innocence. It's very much woman becomes
suddenly,
mother.
Yeah, and then like girl becomes I think there was something. I mean, it did kind of take my breath away when she was in that hot pink two-piece suit thing with the gun. I was just like, whoo! Like
you see, she's. I don't want to discount Sissy Spacek. Like I know I was very it's all Shelley, but really Shelley it's her charisma.
It is,
and then seeing that become transmuted into her guilt and concern for having alienated and caused harm to Pinky, and then also too they I don't know, just the breakdown of her confidence in the space, and
it brought me some comfort to think that the Shelley Duvall, or I keep calling her Shelley, Millie.
Then they all have the same name. Adds to the implication that this is just
Willie,
all one
Millie,
woman.
Mildred.
Mildred, Pinky. Yeah. Pinky's just for Mildred.
Yeah, and I was relieved to think that maybe Millie was a mother figure, because then all of the like, what is this? Milk. I know, but what's it doing in the bathroom? And, and I bought all these groceries, and like, you need to come upstairs and eat. It's like, yeah, if that was your roommate, it's like, God, Millie sucks. You know, like I would hate to live with someone like that. And then they're sharing the one bedroom. They share everything. And I mean, we got to talk about this apartment. The
Yeah.
production design.
It's very good. I mean, it's. I think it's important. I think it's, again, what I'm thinking is it has a lot to say about like women's space taken care of for themselves.
Yeah.
And she talks about it too. She's like, oh, and then if I was with a man, you know, I wouldn't move in. He'd have to move in with me. But only if I, you know, he has to meet these certain standards. You know, this is how I've just taken care of my home and my space just so.
Yeah.
I'm like, I found that so relatable.
Yeah.
And it's
same.
It's protection.
Very protective. And I think watching this, it is clear that, right, there's some deliberate choices being made in production design. The amount of yellow items in this apartment, and yellow carries all kinds of symbolism to it, but it just, I think, though, I've seen enough spreads from old magazines, from interior designs and things like that. Like the obsession with a single color in a room was kind of a design trend in that
monochromatic
era. Exactly. Yeah. That's the real word for it.
Meow,
Thank
meow,
you. Like I'm thinking
yeah,
about...
I like apartment therapy. I've been on Pinterest.
I love it. I was just thinking about A Serious Man and how their neighbor has that beautiful orange living room, and like the glasses have orange slices printed on them. And
I love that.
I think there's something about that single color obsessiveness that it's just really works for me. I don't know.
It's very, I think it adds to, yellow's an interesting color because I think it can go
both ways, right?
Yeah.
I think it can be sickly, imply jaundice, yellow wallpaper, negative,
but
all this
also quite
negative stuff. The
soothing.
yellow king, you know, there's all that, and then on the other side of it is it's like it's warmth, it's sunlight,
golden,
it's
goldenness.
golden.
Yeah.
I think it's a sign of vibrance, fertility, light.
Green has a really similar like duality
Of
People either think it's
sickliness
sickly
and
or health.
Also health. Yeah, exactly.
funny.
And then also to your point about the apartment and the design of it, I really love that there was a little aquarium. Didn't seem like it was filled with anything, but it's just he's like, no, it's for the shot.
Yeah.
We say no, it's for the vibes. We need her looking through the pool water because everybody's got to look into pool water because they're dreaming, right? It's all just a dream, you guys.
Yeah.
He's got like Coke and maybe just a touch of mushroom as he's describing. There's like 50. We're just asking for 50 pages, okay? Doesn't even have to be dialogue. Just stream of consciousness. No, this is my 50 pages. Write it down, okay? We put an aquarium, a little mini on the desk. On the desk, what's it filled with? Doesn't matter. Water, okay? She's looking through it. She sees the pregnant lady. The pregnant lady's looking back at her. She's, it's all a dream. It's all a dream, okay? Where's the pool? I love it. It's like, well, what are they seeing in the pool?
Nothing.
They're nothing. No, but we got to put something in the pool. Okay, fine,
murals.
fine, fucking mural. What's on the mural? Lizard women. Why? Symbols.
Green light, lizard women.
Well, lizard women.
Yeah.
Lizard women in the water.
Let's see. Production notes. So yeah, we know it was from a dream, stress dream. Ingmar Bergman's persona is also a huge influence, which I haven't seen.
Yeah, it gets referenced a lot too in both positive and more critical.
Yeah, it's an identity blending type.
It's a split
theme.
of personas and multiple characters.
Yeah. Part of why this kind of got approved, apart from the maybe just free-mindedness of the 70s at this time, was that up till now, Robert Altman was generally really good at bringing things in efficiently, under budget. He hadn't yet made Popeye. That would change that reputation.
Have you seen it?
No, but I've heard about.
I want to put it on the list.
Okay,
we need stuff like that on the list.
Okay, we should do it. The set that they built a set on Malta in Italy.
Yeah, I think this is where we're hitting the breaking point of like we need to stop just saying yes to everything Robert Altman asks for.
It is.
Yeah,
it is, and that set got turned into an amusement park that is still in existence.
Well, that's kind of nice.
So,
then maybe
anyway.
we should actually start letting we should let Robert Altman make more stuff.
That should be at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
Why is that in Malta? Anyway.
Yeah, because they don't have room. There's too much IP now.
Yeah, that's true.
They got the Nintendo. They had to do
true.
Nintendo Land and the Minions.
I won't lie. That's the only thing I've ever wanted to go to in my life.
Is the Nintendo
Land.
Well, that's the thing. Is that it's fascinating.
Like
how
oh shit. Like I
It's
I
fascinating
might
how
spend,
long
like,
that took.
I might spend like a lot of money there if I win.
No, and that's
It'll take your money.
It's a whole thing. I mean, it's not. I just wish it was its own park and not just this tiny bit of land that they could handle, because you have to get a reservation just to get in now. You better be there open, ready to reserve in advance to go into the eatery, which is also a wait once you get in. It's a whole. I've been watching so many videos about it because I'm just living vicariously through everybody who goes to that park.
Yeah,
because that's the ultimate world. That is the world. It should, like,
that's
if
the one we
Nintendo
want.
could only have its own theme park instead of just being this add-on.
Do you hear that, Nintendo? Just strike out, like, make an island even. Go full island with it.
It would be so
Itchy and Scratchy Land,
fantastic.
Jurassic Park, whatever.
Absolutely. This is backwards to set.
Yes,
Popeye, Altman.
Anyway, Altman, back this.
Carte blanche.
Those paintings that we saw a lot of were by an artist named Bodie Wind, who has a real name that's like Charles or something. But anyway, and
I guess they're not supposed to be lizards. They're supposed to be snakes.
Well,
I was watching something about snakes being supposed to be symbolic of rebirth.
Okay. Yeah,
or symbol is womanhood and
like
other cultures.
Ouroboros, like the snake eating its own tail. I thought they reminded me of like those
a rebirth.
Those things like in Minoan Crete. Those really old Greek
What's
kind
that?
of like murals or mosaic things that you sometimes see. I don't know.
Or like what it's supposed to represent.
It had the style. Or have you ever seen some of those like old Etruscan statues where hair is like represented as like almost like beads because they couldn't figure out quite how to carve hair yet.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know. It was cool. They were. I mean, they were smart to hire a real artist.
I mean, the art is fantastic,
but it's just not that.
It's
good.
also it's funny just in the context of the story again too. It's like this woman is painting this. And it's in the apartment, and you're thinking, like, wouldn't, like, the property management be like, Willie, honey, can you just paint, like, something?
The property management.
Oh, no wonder.
They own the place. They own. They own Dodge City, and
that's actually, like, that's, like, pretty symbolically relevant. But it'd be funny, though. It's like any other place. Oh, why can't you just put, like, some, I don't know, just, like, some flowers or just, like, I don't know, like a nice, why don't you put like a nice tile pattern or something? This seems a little...
It's a little much.
It's a little bit much.
I wonder what paint she was using.
It's a little bit much. Oh, he's hung. Yeah. Oh, look at that guy.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it does say a lot that's like, all these women are sort of like... There's all this combat, and two of them in particular, like one is pushing down the other, and the other one is standing over them. Of the three women, and then there's this guy here doing like the Donkey Kong stance, and it very much is like really like slap like over and do you get it?
Yeah.
Women be hostile when man be there. Yeah. Like it's very
slapping us with it. Yeah.
Do
you have any reviews that you want to share?
I wanted to point out, as we've talked about this before, and I like to mention it each time, that Letterboxd is always used for different things, for different people. Depending on the movie, you'll get like these fun little comedic things. This is one of those movies that gives you the paragraphs where everybody's flexing on their own intellect and introspection, which is great. I don't want to diminish that this movie had its fans and in that way where people wanted to pontificate, but people are this is one of those examples of movies, as we were talking about before, where it's not just a bunch of like little jokey lowercase memes. People are really trying to digest it and express
what it raised up for me,
what it raised up for them, as far as
it is a movie that's asking you to do that.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that there aren't people doing short reviews, but it's a lot of it's very female dominant. I think a lot of dudes don't seem to fucks with this movie, although this is on James Franco's Criterion Top 10. So you know what, we stand a feminist.
I feel like he put it on there just to sleep with somebody.
No, but it is funny though, because the general blurbs of why he describes these movies, he's like, what it really, and actually I'll give him credit though, because there is substance to it. It's just also in that it feels like there's nothing going on underneath the statement, but he's like, Robert Altman just kind of lets actors do what they do best, act. But to that point, he does do that.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. He does let his actors
Oh, they love him.
play in this movie. This is an actor's feast for both Shelley Duvall and Sissy Spacek. So James Franco isn't wrong, but it's just the way it sounded very Harry Styles. Like, it feels like a movie. It's a movie that just feels like a movie.
Yeah.
And
Eloquent.
as far as reviews go, again, when this movie came out, got a lot of positive critical reviews, but it also had its detractors specifically. And this is, I'm more or less pulling from the Wikipedia, but Roger Ebert gave the film 4 stars. Said it funny, satirical, sometimes sad study of the community and its people with masked sexual horror. But there's someone who gave it 2.5 stars. It's Siskel. Gene Siskel said he gave it 2.5 out of 4, saying he still didn't understand it after seeing it twice. Quote, the ultimate meaning of 3 women may be known only to writer-director Altman. That's a little lazy. Then goes on to say, after all, it was his dream. You're not wrong. I didn't find enough threads of sanity to keep me interested in the film's final sequences. Now, it does go pretty like a Skosh Lynchian. And like the last 10 minutes, there's a little nightmare fantasy. You see like did someone just stab Pinky? Like what's
There's water
going on? There's water, screaming. They show all 3 women crying. It's very indulgent in the imagery, but I actually think especially the more that we're talking about it now, what Altman is trying to express is actually super straightforward, and it's almost like Siskel is like standing way too close
to the painting.
Yeah. Again, the Letterboxd reviews, I don't really want to read much from here because it's a lot of paragraphs of items, and I like to look if there's some like a funny meme type of review. It's a lot of 5-star. There's a lot of fans of this, and that's great.
5-star.
A lot of 5, like at least 4 or higher is a lot of fans. So again, like I said, this is one of those movies that people really want to express that they know how much of this may be posturing for respect amongst your illustrious film.
Always a little bit of that.
There's always a little bit of that.
Always a little. I mean,
But it isn't just fully devolved into like, damn, Shelley Duvall is mother. Shelley Duvall is mother, but she actually is mother. Oh shit, that might be mine. No, I don't think I've seen that one. Someone's got to do the meme. No, but one person said. Amaya said 5 stars and a heart, says, yes, the most terrifying phenomenon known to movie directors, female friendships.
It is, yeah.
And I think that is a very concise way of looking at it. Yeah. This is a movie, just a character study, but not character study. Yeah. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is other than it's just examining the idea. It's sort of free thinking about female relationships.
And how they work and how adversarial they can be.
How they adversarial, but then what causes that, what quells that, how does someone, how might a woman who's enjoying the prime of her bachelorette life transition into matron, the position of a matron. And there was one other thing I wanted to pull up, which is just that the tomatometer audience score is 86% and the critical score 94. Again, very, very,
very favorable.
Very favorable reviews. I do think it does get when I have I'll read the one splatter and then we'll move on.
Okay.
Judy Wynn from the Sojourner.
Okay.
In 2019 said, so what does this film have to say to women? Not a whole lot, and surely nothing new. So you're not wrong, but then again, it's like this is not and you're going to be disappointed if you're looking for anything profound in terms of.
I think it's worth mentioning too that this movie came out in '77, but then it really didn't. It was never put on like DVD or VHS or anything, and until Criterion picked it up, and so I think there's a lot of really contemporary viewers seeing this time capsule. But yeah, I don't know.
It does feel very modern, though. I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
artsy fartsy
Like
films
for-
that come out in the modern day feel like
that
this.
doesn't feel like a review that would have come out in 77.
No.
Right? You know, get what I'm
Well,
saying? Like
I would say the closest is that it reminds me of the Siskel one in the sense that
I just think like
it's wrong.
when you take things out of when you
wrong.
literally are taking it out of context, it's like this was very significant for
Right.
77. And Shelley Duvall was awarded Best Actress at Cannes. Like
Which also I found that interesting.
She
that
was
it then,
celebrated
it then
for
didn't
this.
get more
Wow.
national acclaim.
Well, you
in
know,
spite of it.
the French are, you know, they are on it culturally.
Well, you know.
I don't know.
No, it's just interesting. Yeah, I didn't see anything from the Academy or the other. Or
No,
the,
not so much.
Or from that gamut.
But you know, these things happen. Just some notes about Robert Altman, who's in our director's chair this week. He was born February 20th, 1925. He was born to Helen Matthews and Bernard Clement Altman. His mother apparently was a descendant of the Mayflower people, so woo-woo, I guess.
Oh, wow.
His father definitely came from an upper-class family, which explains why he married a Mayflower descendant. He was also an insurance salesman and an amateur gambler, which... Isn't that the same thing?
Amateur gambler. I'm a professional gambler.
Professional versus... I feel like amateur means like you're not depending on it, but you
I think. Oh, he
definitely-
just had like a. He just.
It's not your primary job.
I like that there's a term for it because usually it's like,
Yeah.
well, you either have a gambling problem,
Right.
or if you're professional, it implies
Then
that
it's
you
like-
probably are like, oh, it's a profession, so like it's you've
Oh, well, then
legitimized
respect.
it.
It's like-
but it's like no, it's just a hobby.
Altman comes from German, English, and Irish descent,
Okay.
and he was mostly, he was raised Catholic, although he didn't practice that as an adult, mostly eschewed it. He had Jesuit schooling as well. He attended Rockhurst High School in Kansas City, Missouri. In 1943, he graduated from Wentworth Military Academy, and he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces at 18. And during World War II, he was the co-pilot on a B-52 and flew over like 50 bombing missions over,
Oh my God.
over Indonesia and Borneo.
This guy did a lot.
He had lived some life. So post-discharge, he comes to California, where he was working, I think, in PR, but he casually just sort of sold a script, like on a whim, to RKO.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool. And that was the era where you could do that shit.
Yeah.
And that would be 1948's Bodyguard, which is sort of a noir movie. I've never seen it. I don't know how good it is.
He'd already really been around for a while, even
Yeah.
long before this film.
Oh,
came
right.
out.
Yeah. So because of the
wild.
success of that, he's like, you know what? I'm going to go to New York because I'm going to write. I'm going to be a writer. Doesn't work out. So he moves back to Kansas City, which that is tough to have to go back home, Like
Yeah.
I know the beginning, that first day you're back, when you're going back, that is such a hard...
Yeah.
It's a hard place to be. But
Yeah.
while he's in Kansas City, he really rebounds. He starts directing plays, but he also gets a job, more importantly, for the Calvin Company, one of the most successful, one of the largest producers of educational and industrial films. So all those like 50s era, like, what does Johnny think of this, thing? Like, that's all him. Like, he learned, not all him, but he learned how to create narrative. He learned about editing. He learned sound. Like, this is how
That's cool.
how he learned filmmaking. And the fact that outside work, he's also, directing in theater is interesting. He's clearly, anyway, one of these films, which was commissioned by some local Kansas City businessman. I don't know. He must have had a real problem with juvenile delinquency because he commissioned a whole film about it. And it's called The Delinquents. And in 1956, it was bought by United Artists because it was like one of these teen exploitation type movies. And after that, Altman's like, all right, well, I'm going to California again. Let's try it again. He co-directs the Rush to Market documentary, The James Dean Story, in 1957. Because, James Dean, he died before Rebel Without a Cause came out.
Right.
And then that movie came out. It was just, the beginning of the myth making of him and his legend was already in its infancy, which is why they're like, let's hurry up and get this documentary out so people can obsess over it. Like, we don't do that anymore.
Right. No.
We've always done the things. On the strength of those two projects, The Delinquents and The James Dean Story, Alfred Hitchcock, who at the time was at CBS creating Alfred Hitchcock Presents, is like, oh, bring him in. We will have him direct a couple of episodes, and thus a TV career is born. Now, he only stayed on Alfred Hitchcock Presents for like 2 episodes because he got into a fight with a producer. But he then on was working a lot. I mean, I'm not going to list them all because it's a lot of TV shows that most people, our generation, will not know. And that's not to say that they're not worth mentioning, but TV, it rots away so quickly. Like, unless it's something really seminal, it really doesn't stick. you know? Anyway. But again, he was very good at being under budget and efficient. But because he was uncompromising, he was frequently fired. So I'm like, this guy's a badass. He's once punched a producer because the producer asked Altman to cut 6 minutes from the movie he was working on. Like I said, writers don't trust him. Actors love him. He's very anti-genre. He's attempted a lot of different types of movies, and he pretty much just tears up all the rules and just goes at it like it's a film. Again, fascinated by people and their imperfections. Not people as they are, and not as movies would have us believe them to be. And I really feel like his movies do really reek of that naturalism. It's so good. It's so different from so many things you see.
Yeah, like a nice stinky cheese.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Actors who love him have worked with him multiple times, just to name a few: Lily Tomlin, Paul Dooley, Jeff Goldblum, Sally Kellerman, Elliot Gould. And Altman himself has won 3 Academy Awards, 6 BAFTAs, and 6 Golden Globes. So anyway.
Nice.
Some other movies that were out when 3 women came out: Rabid, Audrey Rose, Annie Hall, Jabberwocky, Demon Seed. Rocky came out in January, and as I said, Star Wars would come out in June.
Yeah.
This was released in April of 1977. It was open in New York. Then it also premiered at Cannes. And again, I mentioned that Shelley Duvall was recognized as Best Actress there. There's some really great footage of her you can find on YouTube being interviewed about this. She's full of life. She's really intelligent sound. I mean, it's great stuff.
It's great.
Really great. I'll try to find it and post it if I can. Okay. Who's your best supporting player?
Let me think for a second.
Think on it. I can share mine if you need time.
You go first.
Dr. Moss.
Yeah, Dr. Moss is really good.
Craig Richard Nelson is the actor, who also has been in several Altman films.
I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think who else might have had much of an impression, especially.
I mean, Edgar was
especially
just,
after they. Yeah, I don't know. Edgar was just gross.
He was
I
just
would
like
say,
a Hunter S. Thompson facsimile.
No, I think it
But
was
like
straight up gross. Straight up gross. I liked, and I don't remember the character or actress's name. I'm sorry. The lady that Pinky talks to early on in the movie, who says, "Just don't talk to the twins." Like, she is kind of.
We don't like them.
Yeah, we don't like them. I just like that moment quite a bit. And beyond that, it's hard. Like the other 3 women, I mean, you definitely argue that Willie it's much more of a supporting role than a key player.
I mean, I had never seen any stills of that woman in this. I'd only ever seen.
He's like, no,
Shelley.
but it's got to be. Why can't it just be the 2? It's got to be 3.
Yeah.
It's 3.
Yeah. It's like they hide.
It's funnier. It's the rule of 3.
They hide Janice Rule, but like,
yeah,
all the photos are of Sissy and Shelley together.
I would say she's
okay.
She's probably my actual supporting, even though she's supposed to be one of the 3.
Yeah, Janice Rule.
You know?
No, that's great.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think I had that literal debate in my head. I'm like, well, she's one of the 3, but we didn't see her anyway.
And everybody else is just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't really, not a lot of strong impressions of too many of the other characters, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I realized I didn't mention a bunch of Robert Altman's movies, but y'all know
That's
them.
okay.
They're out there. We're good.
I think you did mention a lot of his movies, actually.
I mean, I mentioned.
You just mention like 2 more if you want.
I just brought us up to speed. Like,
I think that's because we're gonna watch Popeye.
Yeah.
So
okay.
we're gonna get more. That's why I feel that way with some of the other films we do. Where I'm like, we gotta.
I saved something.
Yeah, good,
Yeah.
good. And it's good too, especially if it's a director that's pretty prolific, because we have a lot.
We're not gonna do that over and over again.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Sick. I love it. All right. Well, would you watch it again?
Not on purpose, but that's not to say that it's not good. It's just it is a lot more. It's a lot more. That I liked reading that splatter review because it is more style than substance, I think. But it's not to say that there isn't substance. There's quite the substance that's there is quite intriguing. I just think it's not a compelling narrative, and I think that's something that. That's not even just like a populist take. Like, understandably, people want to, they want to get absorbed in a story. And I found like the flute and the pool and the scorpions, the lizard ladies in the pool, like that. Those were things that took me out of it a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot of space for my mind to wander.
Yeah. I am glad though to know the difference between English mustard and French mustard.
I love that. Everything Shelley Duvall was doing and
Perfection.
and Pinky,
If you don't have onions, you can just use dried onions. If you don't have celery,
I can't taste
just
the
use celery
difference.
salt.
It's great.
Anytime I see food from movies in the 70s, I'm like, I never want to time travel.
Yeah.
Because Jesus Christ, the cocktail, the weird little...
Those cocktail cups.
Yeah.
That was fun. And she spills it. And then she's trying to scoop it on the shirt. Again, there's a lot of great, if you like that, there's a lot of great style, texture, imagery.
Yeah. It's a time capsule.
To take in.
It's a great time capsule.
I think, the pool stuff just like really bored me.
Yeah.
I got really bored with all that water.
Same.
I was like, okay.
And like the drained pools, and in dreams, like water is supposed to represent unconsciousness.
It's an aquarium,
or
aquarium with no
subconscious.
fish in it.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I don't know. It's because they didn't have one of those little therapy
Little water things.
What are those things that
If they
rock
had
back and
those, that
forth?
would have been one.
You can't, no one at home can
I know
see,
what you're
but
talking about.
I'm
The
moving my
water.
hands like a seesaw.
Are you talking about the one that has like the blue?
Yes.
It's like that super blue
Yes.
liquid. I love
if
those.
Altman had one of those for this movie, problem solved.
I missed the Discovery Channel store. Or is it the Discovery?
Oh,
It's like those
yeah.
store, that one, and then there's another one that
we shopped at
on.
Natural Wonders.
Natural Wonder. Oh yeah. And that has you get the rain sticks. Oh, I love that store. And then it's just
Geodes and
expandable ball for no
reason.
For no reason.
Other than just to scare your cat
yeah.
when they go inside.
It's just there. Yeah. Oh, and then and my favorite is the blue stuff, but it's in the finger squishy.
Yes, which
felt dirty.
It felt really dirty.
It felt very sexual.